and I think a lot of people that maybe follow you on social media and watch some of your videos, they only see maybe like a couple of videos and they're like, oh, this guy's just buying everything in real estate. And that's really not true. For one, you're not even buying in Canada at all right now. So there goes like this entire market.
Seminar that we were at that I allowed to a group of people to host at the golf course. And you were speaking to somebody that was a wealth manager, and he is not a fan of real estate. And so keep going into that.
Yeah. So it's a guy who manages, call it 30, 40 million dollars of wealth in several different families or dozens of different families. And when working with these families, he was mentioning about how, and he owns a couple, so he owns kind of like a stock portfolio, an investment portfolio of himself with securities. And he also owns a few rental properties, nothing crazy, but a couple. And so he's kind of like tasted each investment class. And he said that he much prefers securities, stocks, bonds, etc., and commodities over real estate. And the reason why he said that he preferred it is because when it comes to wealth management, he can have some of his clients, depending on what their goals are, he can tailor the asset allocation depending on what their goals are. If they have a goal of buying a house in 5 years, he's not going to go high into volatile tech stocks, for example, because that could take a crash in a couple of years. And so he wouldn't want to have that much risk exposure. Whereas if somebody is looking to set up a trust for their great grandchildren, you also would have a different kind of like strategy, right? And his point to that was that real estate, it's just one asset class and you're betting on just the real estate market as a whole, and that's it. And when he was asking more about kind of Coachwood Capital and what we do and how it's structured and everything. And I was explaining about how he was asking that before. And I was explaining how when it comes to real estate, it's not a one size fits all like he kind of alluded to. It's that you can really buy different things depending on what your goals are, right? If you are a beginner, for example, like you really only have a couple of options. So if your goal is kind of like just get started, it's like, hey, single family home, house hack, maybe a condo, or invest into like a real estate syndicate like we have at Coachwood Capital, or a REIT. That's like really all you have available to you. But if you have, for example, if you have a larger amount of funds and you want just like maximum cash flow, like we were kind of talking about yesterday when it comes to some of the Section 8 properties down in the US, you're going to have much better cash flow. Will you have a lot of appreciation? Not necessarily, but the cash flow will be phenomenal. And so there's like that class of real estate. Then it's like, okay, are you extremely bullish on the real estate market and you want to gamble a little bit? Okay, get into new construction condos, right? If that's your goals. It's not yours, but if that's
I
someone,
hate that.
I know you do. But if you want to then be way more active and not these other classes, okay, be a developer. Actually go through and build all this shit. You have the highest risk exposure, but you also have the highest potential upside. And so what I was explaining is that like depending on what your overall goals are, you can also tailor your real estate investing for that, right?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
And so I was explaining about how at Coachwood Capital, what our main kind of like what the types of investors that we attract are ones that want to be fully hands off, right? Maybe they want to gain exposure to learning about the stuff that we talk about, how we operate the business, whatever, but they don't want any like responsibility in running. That's number one. Two, they want cash flow, right? They want something they're getting a check sent to them every single month on their share of the profits. And three, hopefully there's some sort of appreciation built into it, whether it's market appreciation, forced appreciation, you name it. And so I was kind of explaining that to him. And to kind of bring this full circle to what you and I were saying before, is you were mentioning about how, and to kind of bring up this one guy's response to your tweet, is that you were saying that purchasing real estate is a lot about a mindset of what if you're not buying a deal right now and pulling a trigger on a deal, then when the market finally corrects, you're still not going to be pulling a trigger on a deal, right? And he's saying, well, no, they're mutually exclusive, that it's like either one or the other.
Or that's what I said, is I think even, I don't know.
Right. And the main point of like what your post was is that it's all about a mindset at the end of the day. Right. And that when it comes to buying real estate, I think a lot of people that maybe follow you on social media and watch some of your videos, they only see maybe like a couple of videos and they're like, oh, this guy's just buying everything in real estate. And that's really not true. For
Yeah.
one, you're not even buying in Canada at all right now.
Yeah.
So there goes like this entire market for one.
argument,
Yeah. The only thing that you just mentioned, actually, before we jumped on the Twitter space, the only thing that you're buying is maybe development potential land. That's the
And
only
like far and few between.
right. That's the only thing that you might buy in Canada right now.
Yeah.
In the US, there's more types of properties, right? Like you're not going into the US right now and looking for industrial spaces.
Like I'll give you an example. In the US right now, I'm trying to land a deal. It's a 62 plus senior community with a HUD contract. Like,
and what is a HUD contract for anyone that doesn't know?
It's the Housing and Urban Development Agency in the U.S. or whatever it's called, and
so government funded.
It's government. Yeah, it's a government, and it's not where tenants come with vouchers. So I have a couple properties in the U.S. where the tenants, it's a tenant voucher base HUD program or whatever, or Section 8, and I would never. I don't like Section 8. I don't like market. Or family Section 8. I don't like that stuff. That's where you get into, problematic tenants and things like that. The only type of Section 8 contracted building that I am interested in getting into is senior based. They're quiet. They don't want to leave. They don't want to ruffle the feathers. They don't want to cause problems. So that's what I'm looking at. So I have a couple of those situations in Canton where they're voucher based. So the building isn't a HUD based contract building. Okay. It's tenant based. The way that works is the checks go to the tenant. Okay. The way that a contracted HUD property in the States works is the checks go to the property owner directly. So it's very different, right? It's not the same. So you're a set now don't quote me. A lot of the jurisdictions in the US, in the States, and even the municipalities, or I don't even know what the equivalent to, I don't know if they call them the same in the States, municipalities or whatever, but the same areas or markets in the States, they might be different in the States, where maybe they go to the tenants on a HUD contracted property, but the particular ones that I've looked into, they go direct to the property owner. They also take a long time to close. 6 to 8 months to actually close a deal. The principal has to get approved by HUD. To even close a HUD loan is extensive.
Does that turn off a lot of buyers, you think?
Yeah, probably. Maybe. But a lot of people love that whole situation. Right? You're not worrying about rent collection. You're not worrying about, are you going to get paid? Even if there's a downturn in the market, it's very stable. The tenant base is stable, and the income stream is stable. The cash flow is very stable, right? And then you also don't have a situation where, market is coming down. There's adjustments. No, as long as that tenant's in there, whatever they were paying, it's not like an adjustment, right? That's the mark, and that's what you have. So it's a very attractive property to get into. The only issue that I'm having right now is that they have 2 full-time employees right now, and literally there's like a payroll of like $100,000, which is like egregious. Even the underwriters for the brokerage that I work with over in the States is like, the fuck is this? You need some context on this, and you need to figure out if that needs to get pulled
$50K
out.
a year for, let's say, like a property manager.
It's like 45.
Janitor.
It's like 40. It's a manager and a maintenance technician. And I say that in fucking quotations. So it's around this. It's a 60 units, around the same density of the other 2 properties that I own in the U.S. I don't understand why. In the property in the U.S., I have a full-time maintenance guy for the senior property, but we're paying him very little. It's a fraction of that. It's like about half of that maintenance salary. And the leasing agent, who is like the property manager, she gets a free unit.
There you go.
So I don't know why they're so, expensive over there.
Do you know if these 2 people are living in some of the units?
I don't know. I'm still kind of getting a little more context, but that would probably be an ideal situation where we just bring in somebody that's like, a handyman in the area, give the leasing agent a free unit or whatever, and we just go from there.
And actually, I looked up the property on Google and I read like a review on it. I don't know if you saw this, but the review mentioned that the those two people that you're referring to are just like neglecting a bunch of stuff.
Is that right?
That
Well,
they're not responding to requests. And like if you're paying someone that much, you better believe that the property is like fucking, if something happens, that they're on it.
Yeah. So
right.
So that's gotta go. If anything, I see that as an opportunity. Right. So that you eliminate those expenses or at least draw them down, then you're adding a ton of NOI to that property.
Yeah.
Which is going to essentially bump up the the narrative of this property. It's a partnership or a couple people or whatever, and they're just retiring. They've had enough. They've pretty much sold off their entire portfolio. This is the most stable property that they own. It's the last one to go. So I like it. I'm going to go after it. I love the prospect of being approved by HUD. Anytime I contact any kind of broker about a HUD project-based property, the first question that comes out of their mouth is, do you currently own one?
Yeah.
All the time. So I'd love to even continue to add HUD-based properties, senior properties, HUD-based senior communities into our portfolio. I actually do like that approach, to be honest with you.